What's up, guys? We are live. This is Bradley alongside Zach and Dawson, and you guys are listening to the Charm City Sideline podcast. Tonight, we're doing a Q&A, bye-week Q&A, coming off the loss to the Eagles. Got a few nice topics to talk about, but first, we want to mention the Ravens were on Hard Knocks. Obviously, will be on Hard Knocks within the AFC North this season. Something we're excited about. Dawson and I haven't been able to watch the first episode yet, but Zach did. Zach, what are your thoughts on the first episode of Hard Knocks, man?
It is so much fun to see all these really behind the scenes for the Ravens, because I feel like we don't get much. If you guys know about the Wired stuff they do every week on the Ravens YouTube, that stuff's pretty cool and it gives you a good behind the scenes, but it's not the access that Hard Knocks gets. They're literally in every coach's room, they're in every meeting, and they can pull whatever they want out of it. So it being the AFC North, right? It was mostly this first episode about the Steelers and Bengals because they played each other. And that's kind of a big deal where, if it's in the division where they play each other, you're going to want to highlight, a matchup between those two and preparing for each other. They hardly mentioned the Browns. Obviously, they were riding a little Jameis Winston train, because who wouldn't? But there was a few kind of Ravens moments. They were talking about the Eagles and a brutal loss to them, and they had an interview with Tucker at the end, and he was just really hard on himself. I think it made its way around the internet before the Hard Knocks release, but they had that angle, a different angle in the locker room. They showed Harbaugh talking really good about Lamar, talking about once he gets to the building, Harbaugh walks in every morning, about to get started for the day, and Lamar's sitting there eating breakfast. He's like, yeah, that makes me feel warm inside. So I was like, that's just, that's such a fire quote. And that was kind of a little intro to the Ravens. They showed Zach Orr talking to the defense, and what he said was, we're starting to hit our stride, and going against an Eagles team, we need to prove it again. And honestly, I thought they did. After the game, we can kind of say that they played a pretty good game defensively. Sure, a few mistakes, but all in all, we could all hang our hat on the fact that the defense played great, and they've been playing great. They've absolutely hit their stride these last few weeks. That was exciting to see, and especially with all the bad talk in the beginning of the year, seeing the locker room in that meeting room where all those guys are so focused and straight face, it feels like they are there to be better. And what a great sign for just us as Ravens fans.
Yeah, I did not get to watch it yet, so I have no idea. I can't really speak on behalf of what we saw, but I did hear a lot of things that it was about 5% Ravens and every other AFC North team, of course. So I heard the first episode was not exactly as what, us Baltimore Ravens fans would want to see. But I did hear a thing, Zach, fact check me in real time here. I heard there was a little snippet of Josh Johnson, potentially, I believe, after the game, kind of giving a talk to the team like, hey, we're all in this to win the Super Bowl. We all got to buy in and it will work. I saw something along the lines of that. So I'd be curious to see that, if that is the truth, if that was in the episode. But just moving forward with it, obviously, I want to watch it. And I hope we can see some good snippets of, inside this locker room and really the culture right now, because obviously there's a lot of controversy of what's going on within the building. And we're going to get more into that here in this episode.
Yeah, Ravens being on Hard Knocks is really fun, even though the organization probably isn't that thrilled about it, and John Harbaugh and all that stuff. I don't know if you guys saw Mike Tomlin was asked if he's going to watch Steelers on Hard Knocks, and he said absolutely not, and just walked away. So
I did see that.
It's not something that coaches are thrilled about. But to get into the first question today, it's obviously about the Diontae Johnson situation that has occurred not just today, but over the last couple of weeks. The question was, what are your thoughts on the whole Diontae Johnson situation? So the Ravens obviously suspended Diontae Johnson for one game for conduct detrimental to the team. Eric DeCosta released a statement. We have made the difficult decision to suspend Diontae Johnson for our upcoming game against the New York Giants for conduct detrimental to the team. Diontae's suspension stems from refusing to enter our game against the Philadelphia Eagles. We will have no further comments on this matter going forward. So Diontae Johnson has played just 39 snaps across 4 games since joining the Ravens. Guys, a couple tweets that really caught my eye. First one from Jeff Zrebeck. Johnson has been visibly frustrated in the locker room after recent games. As a trade acquisition and a contract year, he's wanted to be involved. Yet he has just one catch for 6 yards in 5 games as a Raven. His offensive snap counts are 17, 5, 11, 6, 0. Then a very interesting tweet from Kyle Barber. Can confirm, after a Ravens win at home, he appeared upset to the point you'd think the team had lost the game or he'd cost them a win. Bizarre situation. It was to the point that Lamar Jackson was at his locker attempting to cheer him up and talk with him for 10 to 15 minutes. Dawson, we'll start with you. How do you unpack this situation?
It is such a bizarre situation. I mean, this guy came over, around a month ago, and there was hopes here that he came in for essentially nothing, and he would provide a huge impact for this team, kind of really quickly, given how good he started the season in Carolina. It just hasn't worked out for the Ravens so far. It's unfortunate. I will say this is not the end of the road. I don't think this is it. It would have been different if they came out this morning and released him rather than just suspending him for one game. I think that shows that, there is a relationship there that can be, you could say, rebonded. Clearly, it hasn't started off great. You got this guy coming in with one catch through 5 games for 6 yards and just kind of a non factor in this team right now. And it's unfortunate. But, this is a guy that I was really looking forward to this bye week. Actually, I was kind of hoping that this would help acclimate him a little more and kind of build that chemistry with Lamar and kind of get this thing rolling, especially coming off the bye week against a weaker opponent in the Giants. So I don't know. It's a weird situation given how he had played no snaps on Sunday against the Eagles. Obviously, we saw that. Everyone was kind of confused as to why that even happened, but obviously this morning we got a little more clarity on the situation that he refused to enter the game. I will say we do not know his side of the story, so I'm not going to jump the gun on anything yet. Who knows what's happening right now within that locker room? Who knows what is going on the coaching staff? Why, he would even, being here for 5 weeks, he's already refusing to step foot on the field. So something's clearly wrong there. I will say Diontae Johnson does have a track record, a history of kind of, I don't want to say being a diva or an issue, but there's been problems in the past with the other, teams he's been with. So I will say that was not completely unexpected. Coming here, people did say that this could potentially be an issue somewhere down the road. Something could spark up. And unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with right now. I'm curious to see how they work him in, after this one game suspension, because we're going to need him down the stretch, man. This offense is going to need all the help they can get. And this guy's in a contract year. Obviously, I get he's upset because he was having a great season and he got traded to Baltimore. And now he's been a wide receiver 5 with 6 yards over the last 6 weeks. So I completely understand the frustration by him. It's obviously, that it's expected, but it's just unfortunate for us because we've got this guy and it has turned out to be nothing now over a month in. So I still have hope, but I will say it's not completely out of the realm that he is potentially released, I would say, by the end of next week. So the Ravens are going to seek all options. And I saw a report on Twitter that they have been looking at wide receiver help. So we'll see what that means exactly. So I don't know, man. I just really hope this is a relationship that the Ravens can rebond and really help and get going down the stretch.
Yeah, what's weird to me about it is that Diontae, in any real conference or interview with the media, he's not like saying things that would bash the Ravens or bash a coach or a player, anything like that, right? So when this is all happening and he's not getting these snaps, we're just thinking, oh, maybe he doesn't know the playbook. Oh, he's maybe not physically ready for something. Like maybe he's not on the same page as Lamar. We don't know. And this happens, and he has this kind of weird image of being kind of a diva in the past. And then the Ravens put out this statement, right? I think the statement makes Diontae look bad because obviously it's suspension, and no matter what should make him look bad. But like, he's handled it so well in any interview to where I was thinking, oh, he'll play after the bye and probably be the 2. Like he could probably be brought right in and they'll figure it out. Like I think in the past with some like offensive trades, it's taken a little bit to get the player really into the offense. and then they start getting really the wheels turning. And it's just a weird situation. I don't know how to describe it. It's not like he's a superstar wide receiver too, right? So he's also handling it exceptionally well. And the fact that the reporters are the ones telling us all this visibly frustrated, a bizarre situation, talking to Lamar for 15 minutes, like we would know absolutely nothing without the reporters' help and think that this is the most basic, oh, he's just not getting ready for the offense, or oh, he just doesn't know what he's doing. And I'm really just taking it with like a grain of salt. Like I'm kind of like, why would the Ravens have all this issue and suspend him for this if it wasn't something bad he was doing? But the fact that if it is something bad and he's not going the extra length to show that, oh, my situation here is bad, that means he's a genuinely good dude. And we probably should get him this whole year, for the rest of the year, as a competent wide receiver too, as long as Bateman, comes back relatively soon. I hope he's okay. I haven't heard any other injury news besides just, soreness. But even then, he can be a part of the offense. It's just, I don't know why it's been this ugly to start out, because it feels like he's a great guy and the Ravens are pretty good as an organization handling this type of stuff. I don't understand why it's gelled so bad.
It's so odd too, I want to say, because Bateman goes down late in this game. I mean, that's your clearing away wide receiver too. And you would think this is this is it, man.
Yes.
Johnson, go out there and show us, go be that guy. This is exactly why we brought you here, right here, as wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 insurance. And it just still didn't happen. So obviously we don't know the full context. We don't know if John Harbaugh was like getting the game and he said no. We don't know exactly how this panned out, and I don't think we ever will. It's just like you said, man. It's a very, very odd, very strange situation. It's really hard to talk about it because we literally just have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. It's very odd because you would think if anything on Sunday against the Eagles, man, that was the best opportunity for Johnson to go out there and make his case. And, from what we've heard, this guy literally declined to step foot on the football field, which is just absolutely bizarre given this guy is probably upset due to, a lack of targets, a lack of playing time, a lack of, just playing football.
Do you guys know when exactly Bateman got hurt?
No, I don't think so.
I think it was in the second half. I think it was like the late third quarter, I think. I think.
I would guess second half too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like that's the prime example. That's a prime opportunity, and he just didn't take it.
I was talking to my guy Henry about the situation. Obviously, Steelers fan for people that don't know, so he knows a lot about Diontae Johnson. He was saying that, like, what if there's a possibility that the Ravens didn't play Diontae for a little bit after Bateman got hurt, like let's say 2 or 3 possessions, and then they say go in the game, and he's like, no, because why didn't you play me right away when Bateman got hurt, and now you want me in? Like, I think there's a possibility of that. There's also a possibility that Bateman got injured and they say, okay, Diontae, get in there, and he's like, no. Comment from Jeremy. There's a rumor going around that they didn't try to put him into the game until the final drive where we got the garbage time touchdown. So if that's the case, I don't blame him. And that's kind of what I'm hinting at. Like, there is a chance that it's like the end of the game and the Ravens are like, okay, get in there. And he's like, no. And they can still say there would be no lie in EDC's statement.
That's correct.
So we don't know for sure what exactly happened. Like you guys said, we probably won't ever know. Also, I mean, the Ravens probably are not going to cut him because they wouldn't suspend. They would have just cut him today. They probably don't want the Chiefs signing him or the Bills signing him or anything like that. Yeah. So
it's the truth.
We'll see what happens. I guess his first game back will be Steelers on December 21st. So that's your chance right there. Second question is about Justin Tucker, who has been honestly more talked about in national media than I thought he would. It's really getting around. What's wrong with Justin Tucker? Should the Ravens move on from Tucker or just ride it out with him? Obviously, there's a stat that everyone saw. The Ravens' 5 losses are by a combined 22 points this season. Justin Tucker has 22 points worth of missed kicks in the 5 Ravens losses. After the game on Sunday, Tucker admitted to it, I feel like I cost us this one. As you guys know, some of you may have seen Belichick was on the Pat McAfee show talking about Justin Tucker, and he said, quote, "He still has great height on the ball. The ball travels with plenty of distance. There's nobody else out there that has more experience or has mentality, been in more situations than Tucker has. I think I would go with Tucker." Zach, what's your take on the situation?
It's just so puzzling, right? When you get the best kicker, well, deemed the best kicker of all time, as in accuracy, distance, the record's his. I mean, everything points to Justin Tucker being the best. And the fact that we could lose 5 games and feel like most of those are on his shoulders, if not him just being a part of those losses, we could say at week 13, we need to cut him. That's pretty incredible. That's as when we were right out after in the post game, we were talking about, I was angry. I said, I don't expect him to be here past Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. And it's like the Ravens obviously have 20 times the faith in him because, what he means to the organization and everything is also generational, right? He's the prototypical, you see his face when you picture the Ravens as in a group, and his greatness also can't be undervalued. If you talk about all of his seasons of kicking, I can't really remember one where it was like, oh, he really had the yips that year, or wow, he had the real big struggles like this. If he's just been that good since his Texas days, and this is the first time that he has had generally the yips, literally he's lost one like inch of a foot movement that has affected these kicks. It's a whole new journey for him too. And especially with the group we have, I trust someone like Harbaugh to get him right. But then I have to contradict myself and say, we are in week 13 and it's not really been fixed. They've made attempts at it. I think someone said on ESPN or something that, it was all wide left. It was all wide left. And then he had a wide right. The difference of those kicks, right? Whenever it was all wide left, it was such a curve. It would really hook. And the right, whenever that miss to the right in the Eagles game, was one of those kicks where in the past with, I think the Browns game, he would switch the technique to where it is like a dead straight ball, right? So that dead straight ball he kicked was just off to the right. It was, again, just a bad trajectory. So it was something else that had been working where they had figured that part out. But this time it also didn't work. It was the final straw of attempts and confidence for him. I mean, him saying that he cost us that one is big. That means that it's really weighing on him to another level. And I'm sure everyone in the locker room also feels that and is encouraging him. And I just, now looking back on that post game, I realize you have to ride it out with him. Even if the rest of this year becomes a bombshell and we lose in the divisional to the Bills or the Chiefs or whoever by a Tucker missed field goal. I mean, no matter what, we have to hang our hat on the fact that he is our possibly Hall of Fame kicker. And if he's going to have one bad year, I think this is the one, and we're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, man, it's scary because you're talking about a bona fide star Hall of Fame kicker here. That's been our guy for over a decade now. And now he's a huge liability to this team's success. And I mean, we're all going to say it. He's part of the reason we're losing games. And it's just sad because it's very obvious this entire team, the franchise, the fan base, I mean, overall has this guy's back. They're all picking him up when he's down, and you can even see now he's taking accountability for it. So, like Zach said, it's weighing on him and it's really affecting him. And we know, especially with football, the kicking position in particular is a mental game. And if you're going out there missing kicks, I think he has 8 misses on the year and 2 extra points. That's 100% going to get in your head. It's going to be a mental game. It's going to be hard to get out of that. It's kind of like a rough, much like baseball, if you want to compare it to that game too. If you're going up there striking out every at bat, it's really hard to break that and become a home run hitter once again. So this bye week's probably coming at a really good time for him to kind of clear the head, get on the practice field, work on the technique, work on what's not working. And like Zach said, the majority of these kicks are getting pulled wide left. And of course, we had the one wide right in the Eagles game. But overall, I feel like, I'm confident saying this, that there's probably a small tweak that he can make in his technique to help better his game. Obviously, we know he can do it. He's probably the best kicker of all time. He's going through a slump. We've never really seen this from Tucker, so that's why it's kind of, why we're all freaking out at the moment, because he's been absolutely star-studded his entire career. Every time he comes up for a kick, we know he's making it. You can leave the room and come back and you know he's going to get it. So it's just really hard for us to adjust to this right now because it's something we are completely not used to. And as much as I've been upset with him lately, I do have trust in him at the end of the day. There's a reason he's one of the best kickers of all time, if not the best. And he's got some time to figure it out. I'm not going to say a lot of time because the playoffs are quickly approaching. But, I would hope and I would imagine that this team has himself included figured out by, playoff time. And at the end of the day, the Ravens aren't going to make a move to get rid of him. It's not going to happen. He's going to be our kicker all the way through the end of the season, whether you like it or not. God forbid an injury. So we just got to hope. We got to hang our head on our boy Tuck and just hope that he gets it back, because at the end of the day, he ain't going nowhere. And, I would say that's probably for good reason. But the only thing I would say that I do want the team to do potentially is bring in some, competition. I'm not saying bring in a guy that's going to overtake his job. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And I completely understand them saying that there's nobody out there on the street that's better than Tucker, which is 100% correct. At the very least, you bringing in competition and showing him that his job is not safe, I feel like kind of gives him that extra advantage point and a little extra edge to kind of, hey, I really need to figure this out. They got guys in the building kicking, potentially looking for my job. So I think that would benefit him in any way. I don't think that would do anything in a wrong term. So I don't know, man. We just got to hope Tucker can get it back, and hopefully soon.
And like, there were so many moments in 2018, 2019, even before then. Tucker could be lining up for a 47-yard field goal, and I'm like on my phone,
going to the bathroom.
I'm not even looking at the screen. And even last year, that wasn't the case. And last year there was a little bit of struggles, and this year I think that's what the national media doesn't know and doesn't understand. This is something that started last year, where you'd be a little concerned about every field goal, and then this year it kind of blew up. And it's like, I think you guys might agree, it's not that surprising because of what we saw last year. A couple 50-yard misses, a couple missed extra points. I don't know. I agree with Dawson. I think bringing in competition is good. Not to take his spot. I mean, it's interesting. It's like, are you going to carry two kickers in the NFL? You know what I mean? Probably not. I don't know. It's more so, do you think he's going to be back to who he really is next year, or do you think this is kind of the end? I feel like that would kind of influence your decision making in this process.
It's just tough because I feel like right now, and Tucker's not this kind of guy, but I feel like right now it's you or nobody, dude. It's like, you're the only kicker we got. We're just gonna sit here and rely on you figuring it out again. And I feel like at the very minimum, if you bring in guys into the building for kicking tryouts, what is there to lose? Who is there to hurt? Tucker's feelings are not going to get hurt. None of the players, none of the coaches, you bring in a guy to kick alongside him, and he at least sees that, hey, we're weighing options, man. Like, you got to get it figured out. Like, this is not a joke. Like, we need to get this figured out, like, ASAP. I feel like that gives him a little bit of an edge, because I feel like Tucker's obviously a very competitive individual, and he would take that as kind of like, okay, like, I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm not going nowhere. I'm still the kicker. And it's just like, what is there to lose by calling in a guy to come in and kick some footballs around for like a few hours, man? I feel like that would help him. I do.
And you got people talking about like technical issues with this. And Harbaugh's mentioned that he makes all his kicks in practice and he makes all his kicks in warmups. So that would tell me it's not a technical thing. That would tell me it's a mental thing. So
that's what I'm saying.
Go ahead, Zach. Yeah, like the closest thing I can think of is like the yips. He's got a case of the yips. I really don't understand how. I love Dawson's point, like the pitcher, the strikeouts, and it's like the home run hitter can't get one again. And then all of a sudden he does, but it sure takes a rough patch to get through it. And I want to compare it to like kind of a family thing, right? To give us a different point of view. If this Ravens team, over a decade, he's kicked for them, the relationship with Harbaugh, special teams guys, everyone, they've created a bond where if you were to bring someone in right now, whoever the best free agent kicker is, you bring some guy in and he starts kicking, that means that you're not 100% confident with Justin Tucker. Now, right now, I think we can all say that we are not 100% confident with Justin Tucker. But if you're talking about an organization that is as pristine as the Ravens are, with this Raven mentality and all, you have to be 100% with Justin Tucker. You have to be 100%. And honestly, I love that because it shows how much Harbaugh is a player's coach and that he can still be faithful with him even through really, really, really tough times. And a different part of Hard Knocks that I forgot to mention, he goes out there and he kicks and makes like a 30-yarder, I believe, to begin the Eagles game. And it was like, okay, there we go, Tucker. Just see one go through, right? And then they quickly show Harbaugh on the sideline, excited. The next one he kicks, it's complete opposite, right? It's like, hey, you'll get it next time. Like everyone on the sideline, you'll get it next time. And he's like, I know. Like he's still confident, right? And seeing that type of stuff, it means that it's like a family almost, where you can't give up on like a brother, a son almost, if you're Harbaugh. And even in this situation where you know he's the best, but he's not having his best right now, you have to kind of stay truthful to him. You have to stay in that zone and stay fully engaged with him to see if he can bring it back. Because if he can bring it back, it's the best kicker ever. Think about if he can transform it going into these last couple of games, if he can somehow flip it around and knock through, half of his misses right now, we're winning probably a game or two, right? And it's just really, it's such a hard situation. If you think about it like how I just described it, it's like, okay, you could never cut him. You could just not. And on the other side, it's a business, and we can be as upset as we want to be because other kickers right now are not necessarily having the greatest years as well. So it's tough. It's an incredibly difficult discussion that the media is honestly talking about. That I was surprised as Brad was, but yeah, it's really deep. It's deeper than we think it is.
Yeah, like I completely agree. You want to stand behind Tuck because obviously he's legendary, but at the same time, the whole aspect of saying that there's nobody on the street right now that's better than him. We're talking about a guy who I believe I saw a stat is like 35th out of 40 qualifying kickers in this NFL season in field goal percentage or something along the lines of that. So, I mean, we can sit here and say all you want, but realistically, man, it's not a joke to say Tucker is one of the worst kickers in the NFL this season. I mean, he is genuinely not great, and it sucks, man. It really, really sucks. But I mean, we're not talking about a guy who's just, oh, he can't kick 55 plus anymore. Oh, he misses a 45 plus every now and then. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is missing extra points. We're talking about a guy who is missing 35 yarders. We're talking about a guy who is like, he's walking up and we're all like shaking. We're nervous because we know right now there's a pretty decent chance that he's missing. So I mean, I get it. Yeah, no one, if you bring in a guy off the street, compared to Justin Tucker, it doesn't look pretty. But I can guarantee you right now that there's probably a kicker on the street right now that's not missing extra points. There's a kicker that's going to deliver from 40 or less. And there's probably a guy out there that can deliver from 40 plus too. And at the very worst, you bring in competition and help your legendary kicker get back to his norm. But I don't like that whole thing of like Harbaugh and the coaching staff immediately just brushing aside anyone on the street because to be honest with you, we're talking about a kicker this season. Unfortunately, it's been one of the worst in the NFL.
After drawing conclusion that it is a mental thing, because that's really the only, like, it can't be anything else. I kind of compare this to the Chargers playoff game, Lamar's rookie year, where everyone kind of knew if the Ravens decided to put Flacco in, our chances of winning that game is probably higher. I don't know about you guys. Even knowing that, I did not want Joe Flacco to come into the game. for the same reason that Harbaugh didn't end up doing it. Like, you can be affected more mentally than physically as an athlete. And maybe benching Tucker kind of ruins him forever. I don't know. I think this is how I would approach it. You hope he fixes it on the bye week. Let's say Giants game, he's 3 for 3. Okay, you're good. Don't have to talk about it ever again. If he goes 1 for 3 in the Giants game, I'm probably bringing in someone that. That's how I'd approach it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Dawson.
No, I'm good. It's sad, man. It's crazy that we're sitting here talking about worries of Justin Tucker. I've never thought we'd get to this point. I really never thought we'd be here. Obviously he started the season rough. I'm pretty sure he missed one of the Kansas City game. But I thought, like, the moment for me that I was like, all right, yeah, Tucker's back, was when he drilled that, like, 56-yarder, I think, that sent us in overtime against the Bengals week 5 or whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
It was something like that. Like, that's when I was like, all right, he's back. Because if he didn't make it, we lost. We lost. And he drilled, like, a 56-yarder, and I was like, oh, yeah, like, we're good. And then, unfortunately, it's haunted him the whole season. But obviously, he could still drill him. Like he can do it. It's just technique. Something's off with the technique. The mental aspects obviously weighing on him, and I just hope our boy can get right.
Isn't that a great thing to note? Like he still has the clutch gene even after all that. Like what? Yeah. He could miss a few, and then I feel like if we trot him out there, and
I would be more confident in him kicking a game winner than like a second quarter field goal. I don't know why, but
isn't that crazy?
Or an extra point.
Yeah.
It's the truth, dude. It's the truth.
Yeah. Okay, third topic. We've kind of had some deep topics today, guys. And this one might be the deepest one of them all in terms of emotional whatever. What's your confidence level in the Ravens winning 1 or 2 playoff games? And I want to first off saying this. We got questions earlier in the year. What's your confidence level in the Ravens winning the Super Bowl? It's gone down to what's your confidence level in the Ravens winning a few playoff games. So it's a little sad. We talk about that episode with Sutton we did after week 2, Raiders lost 0-2. Then we did another episode with him, 5-2. And now it's kind of gone from here to here to here. And kind of coming back down right now. Maybe a good time for a bye, maybe not a good time for a bye. But Dawson, I'll let you start with this one.
This is so hard because when I think about the AFC playoff picture this year, a lot of these teams are obviously really good. Like Buffalo is playing out of their minds this year. Kansas City is obviously incredible. And I think the Ravens' best path in the playoffs this season, because I can't confidently say we're getting a home playoff game right now with the way the Steelers are playing. They're playing fantastic football. Obviously, we know the story if we have to play Pittsburgh. I think the Ravens' best path this season would be getting the 5th seed, hopefully going into Houston, matching up against the Texans round 1, and then from there, obviously playing whoever on. The Ravens are still in a pretty decent spot. We're 8-5 going into a bye week, relatively healthy. So you can't sit here and say like, oh, we have no chance. And you also can't say that, oh yeah, we're running off and winning the Super Bowl this year. It's a very weird year so far for the Ravens. They've dropped a few games that just should not have happened, obviously. And I can't sit here and seriously tell you to your face that I feel really good about the Ravens' chances this year. They have a lot of underlying issues this season. Just like the Justin Tucker issue, of course. There's a lot of weird things going on within this team this season that I think ultimately a championship team just does not have. And I think it's stuff that could catch up to us later on down the road and potentially cost us a playoff game. You got whatever's going on within the locker room right now with the whole Diontae Johnson thing, and then also Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams. It's a weird element of the Baltimore team this season that's going on behind the scenes that is, I would say, heavily affecting this team. And, you got inconsistent play from the defense all over the field, and then offense has its weeks where they just fall apart. Not to mention that, like I said in the beginning of the statement, that just the teams that you're going to have to go on the road and play this season with their home field advantages, man, are so, so tough. I mean, Pittsburgh, out of the top 3, I would say in Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Buffalo, I feel like our best odds are against Pittsburgh, and those are not good. obviously we know the story of Pittsburgh. So it's a really tough path for the Ravens this season, man, especially if they do have to go on the road round one and play a wild card game, man. It's just going to be a really tough road for the Ravens. Obviously, this team can still win a Super Bowl. Obviously, they have the roster to do so, and they very much could. They can go on a run here to end the season, and who knows, win the division, and they could look great into the playoffs. But I don't know. It's a really tough road, and it's going to be very difficult to have optimism as far as going into Kansas City, Buffalo, or even Pittsburgh if that's the Ravens' path to a Super Bowl win.
This is such a good comment because, like, if in 2012 you can have all this issues, right? All this drama and everything, and still turn around and sneak in and still somehow win it, like, it means that even this year, our team can do that. Our team's capable of that. On paper, we have one of the best rosters in the NFL. Think about like the Niners right now. The Niners also stacked roster, but they are dealing with a crap ton of injuries. So they are like in the gutter. We have everyone. The team is as healthy as I can ever remember it being this late, and especially before a bye. What? So I'm not saying it's Harbaugh's fault, but it's like we haven't hit the stride. I think we've talked about that a few times. Sure, earlier in the year after our losses, like we played the Cowboys and then the Bills and on, and we started winning and winning pretty dominantly. Those you could kind of look like it's kind of seems like it would be a stride, but at that point the defense wasn't playing like it is right now. And now that we've gotten later in the year, the offense has had a few little lapses here and there as the year's gone on. So the fact that we haven't hit the full blown both sides of the football being hitting their stride, and the fact that, you know, someone like Tucker is struggling and obviously hasn't really hit his stride, you can point to the fact that we can beat any team in the AFC. I think we all know that. But I think you have to prove it against someone like the Texans. You prove that you can pummel the Bills. You have to prove it against the Steelers as well. You're really close against the Chiefs. And yet all those games, we don't know about the Texans yet, but all those games, you could say that one part of our football team was not playing up to their full potential. So the confidence level for me is not necessarily wavered as of late. Like when we had that Q&A with Sutton, I was like, this is the most confident I've ever been for our team to go to the Super Bowl. Because really, roster-wise, there's no excuse. And since it's become a mental thing where, you know, we've had Marcus Williams and Diontae now and Tucker, the level has dropped to, I think we could win a playoff game. But if we have to go on the road the whole journey in the playoffs, that sounds a little more difficult. And I'm not willing to say 2 wins are well within grasp. I think we could steal one against how Dawson perfectly put it, a Bills or Texans kind of, but like going into Pittsburgh a third time, like playing them a third time, but in Pittsburgh twice, that sounds horrible. And the level is not high. I would say it's like a 50-50 right now that we could win 2. It just feels like it could be a good chance to go on the road and win 1. I'd feel pretty confident still.
I think I'm more so giving it a 50-50 to win 1 playoff game. There's a lot to unpack here. You guys made a lot of great points. We talked about a few weeks ago, we had a question on a Q&A, is this roster better than it was last year's? Mm-hmm. And I think we all were kind of like, probably is. So like Zach was mentioning, there's no excuse personnel-wise, mm-hmm. right? So what's the excuse? Is it coaching? Same coach as last year? Well, actually not. But Zach Orr's been very good the past couple weeks. I think it's more so just like what's kind of deflating us, and I think this kind of makes sense from an entertainment perspective, from a fan perspective. It's so much more positive to have a great offense and a terrible defense than it is to have a great defense and a terrible offense. In the past couple of weeks, I'm not saying the Ravens defense has been great, but it went from awful to average, and the offense went from greatest show on turf, the Rams with Isaac Bruce, to average the last 3 weeks. And I think that just feels pretty deflating. And I just think that, the Eagles loss, and this is why we do midweek episodes, because we don't really have the mental fortitude to get these thoughts out right after the game. The Eagles loss was literally a playoff loss. It was literally a playoff loss in a regular season game. Like, everything that goes into it. Tucker misses multiple times. You have some weird coaching decisions. You have Lamar not playing his best game. You have the defense kind of having the bend but not break, but then they give up a touchdown that kind of just ends it all.
Yeah.
So many correlations where some of our past losses have been like we outplay them all game and then make a mistake at the end. This one was like it felt exactly like a playoff game. And, kind of that thing where the offense just never gets going. And I think that just takes away the confidence level. Like, okay, it's still happening, right? And you don't feel super confident. I like Attitude Pop's comment. 2012, the Ravens were awful the last month of the season. They won one game. I remember I was at a restaurant with my friends. I was 10 years old, watching the Ravens blow out the Giants on December 23rd. I need a fact checker. But Bernard Pierce had like a 70-yard run, and they played great. And that's kind of when they were like, they caught fire. I think 2 weeks left of the season. And maybe the Ravens catch fire after the bye. Maybe they blow out maybe they beat the Giants by 30. Then maybe they go 4-0. Maybe they go 0-4. It'll kind of determine what happens this offseason, but a 7 seed can win the Super Bowl. I mean, even I kind of thought it was dumb adding the 7th seed to the playoff, but the Packers last year blew out the Cowboys in the wild card game. Then they almost beat the Niners in the divisional. So really anything can happen. Some comments here. Mufsy, I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying, but I'm just tired of being mediocre. Like, we are too good to get high draft picks, but not good enough to contend for the title. I kind of agree with that somewhat. However, like, we were in the AFC Championship last year, which is like a top 4 team. Yeah. But overall, you go 2020, divisional round loss, not great. 21, no playoffs. 22, losing the wild card. So I kind of get it. It's just you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. And, I mean, so do the Bills, so do the Chargers, so do the Bengals. So it's kind of like everyone's wasting their quarterback. So it's harder to say that, but it feels like the Ravens are wasting Lamar Jackson, and he is a better quarterback than all those players too. So
that's what I would point more to. It feels like we're like, as a fan base, we can. That's what I'm more lay the side on of wasting Lamar, and I think what I can't believe we outplayed them in basically every stat. I think the last drive of like Lamar going down the field and scoring was kind of a little pushing that number a little sideways, but still, the Mufsy comment about being mediocre, like, I think that's just like the wrong way to put it. Being mediocre and not actually being good enough to contend for a title is the Steelers the last like 10 years. I mean,
the Colts or like,
sure. Yeah. Like, the Steelers are the definition of, hey, we're going to be 9-8 this year and then maybe sneak in the playoffs and lose. Like, it's like, that's what mediocre is. The Ravens these last few years with Lamar can get to the number 1 seed and contend. Like, they've just shot themselves in the foot. Last year should have been the year, right? And this year, it felt like the roster only got upgraded, but we've taken a step down. So I don't entirely know, right? Like the mediocre thing. It's just that we're living in a world where Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are also just dominating football. Like they're just in and out. Like I talked to a friend today who's not necessarily a massive NFL guy, but he was like, I asked him, who do you think is going to go to the Super Bowl this year? And he said, oh, the Chiefs will somehow make it. And then maybe like the Eagles or the Lions. I'm like, I can't argue with that. They're like 11-1. They're just winning whatever games they want. So all these teams, even the Bills, how great they look, they can still go and get beat by the Chiefs because it's been happening year after year. I mean, it's not necessarily that we're that bad. It's just that we've killed ourselves a few times in moments that we should have overcome, a big obstacle. So I don't know. I feel a little pushy on that part of it, but I still think that our best football is ahead of us.
Yeah, it's a good point to say that the Ravens haven't even, by a long stretch, I would say, peaked and played their best football yet. I mean, obviously, the defense is figuring it out the last few weeks, which is very encouraging, and their best football is still far ahead of them. I think, the offense has obviously been incredible throughout the season, but, the Ravens, all it takes is to come off this bye week and get hot and peak at the right time. You come off this bye week and win 3 or 4 games, man, and go like launching into the playoffs, man, and potentially home playoff game. You clutch that up in the last couple of weeks with Pittsburgh, and you know how tough their schedule is. That would be incredible, and we'd be having a completely different conversation than the one we are having right now. So all it takes is getting hot at the right time, peaking and playing your best football going into the playoffs and not too soon. And you mentioned these 11-1 teams in the NFL right now. You got the Lions, you got the Eagles, Chiefs, all these teams that are just running through the NFL, and it's like, the Bills too. You got to think, are they playing their best football now? Can they get any better than they are right now? Are they peaked? Is this it? So who knows? Obviously, we know the Ravens haven't. So it'll be nice to see them come off this bye week, hopefully very healthy and against a weaker opponent. I would say against the Giants. Obviously, it's football any given Sunday, but that's a huge opportunity for the Ravens to kind of come off this bye week flying and make a statement.
There's some conversation going on in our comments right now. This comment, Ravens are still a top 5 team in the NFL. Who beats them in a 7-game series besides maybe Eagles, Lions, Chiefs, and Bills? Andrew here is an Eagles fan. As an Eagles fan, I would rather play the Chiefs and the Bills than have a rematch versus the Ravens. Not everything is doom and gloom. We all barely lost a game to a Super Bowl contender, which is very true. Bardock disagreed with the comment saying NFL isn't a 7-game series, though. But, I will say, when I saw this comment from Andrew, I thought it, I think it's a good comment because it shows why Ravens fans are so frustrated. Because in a 7-game series, they probably are beating everyone besides a few teams, right? But in a 1-game series, they choke, right?
Yeah,
and
there's no way the
Ravens
are making the same mistake 4 times.
Yeah,
in a 7-game
and that's why I like this comment. Jeremy says, I just don't want a quarterback who is arguably the best athlete at the position to ever touch the field to be a what-if guy in the end. Yeah. Another comment from Andrew, the Ravens can beat anyone in the league. There isn't a team in the NFL that is a tier above the Ravens, which I agree with that from a roster standpoint. I will say, when you break, if you take quarterback out of it, the Eagles roster is a lot better than the Ravens. But it's, they still can compete with anyone because of Lamar Jackson. I don't know. I mean, it's would you guys be shocked if the Ravens are in another AFC championship?
No.
Yeah. I mean, you'd beat the Texans in Houston. You'd go to Arrowhead in the divisional round. But maybe that's what the Ravens need. Maybe the Ravens need to go to Arrowhead in the divisional round.
Think about this. Think about we beat the Texans in wild card. We go to Arrowhead in the divisional, take down the Chiefs, and then the AFC Championship in Buffalo, we take down the Bills, and then we go to Super Bowl. That would be conquering all the demons that the Ravens have in one postseason. So, and then who knows if there's a rematch in the Super Bowl, if we make it to the Eagles or the Lions or Packers, whoever it's going to be there. But the Ravens have just as good as a chance as anyone else in the NFL. Obviously, that's it's not crazy to say. Their roster is incredible. They're a great team, and they can beat great teams. We put it down on the Bills earlier in the season. That's not a fluke. It's nothing that you don't see often. And the Ravens usually play good against good teams, and just Sunday against the Eagles was kind of a stupid game, much like Brad said, a playoff loss where everything seems to go wrong for the Ravens. Everything, coaching issues, players freaking out. You got Tucker missing field goals. It's just one of those freak games that I will admit happens far too often for the Ravens. But it's just the Ravens can match up well against anybody in the NFL, and they have just as good of a chance as anyone.
Perfectly said.
You guys got any final thoughts?
Not really.
We have a decent amount of people on Instagram right now. If you guys didn't know, we have a podcast on YouTube. If you'd like to go over there and subscribe, feel free. It's called Charm City Sideline. You can find a link on my story, Lamar Season Story, or my bio, or you could just search Charm City Sideline on YouTube. If you're on YouTube right now, thank you. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. And thanks for watching. We enjoyed talking to you guys in the comments tonight. Ravens don't play this weekend. Maybe a good thing. But we'll be back sometime, probably Monday, Tuesday next week to discuss more after these games happen this weekend and maybe some more Ravens news comes out. But thanks for watching / listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Peace.